Thanks for clicking! The Canadian Real Estate Association, the CREA, has released Canada's real estate data for the month of February, showing major decreases in sales amid tariff uncertainty. And while the sales data at this point isn't going to come as a surprise to many, the commentary might, as the now sullen CREA economist Sean Cathcart appears increasingly defeated.
I guess we were hoping for a more normal year after a pandemic and inflation crisis, but I guess that was too much to hope for.
But it's not just the CREA economist changing the way he reacts to glaringly obvious data, with the man himself, Royal LePage CEO Phil Soper, wading into the mix, pointing to the shaken confidence on behalf of would-be homebuyers, even taking the time to rebut claims that the dismal sales data was due to snow. And while the general acknowledgement of basic facts is a big step for the real estate industry, there is still the problem of the past.
Canadian housing activity heading into 2025 has basically gone from a layup to a slam dunk.
Thankfully, though, Cathcart is going to tell us exactly what went wrong.
Initially, sales were doing pretty well. They were tracking with last year at average, or maybe a little bit better than average at the national level. And then January 20th came along.
But were they, though? Was the market just about to take off before Trump got in office?
I guarantee it.
So what I want to do today is go over Canada's real estate data for the month of February, discuss the industry rhetoric surrounding that data, as evidenced by Sean Cathcart and Phil Soper, and then look at the pre-Trump real estate market as discussed by the CREA. As we'll see today, the real estate market isn't looking that great, though we will obviously continue to track how this all unfolds on this channel. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, let's get into this data. Onto the data. First up, the benchmark price. The benchmark price, if you'll remember, that's the price of a home that represents the most popular set of features, and that dropped in February. The benchmark in January was sitting at $718,500, and that dropped almost 1% to $712,500 in February, which is the largest drop in the benchmark price that Canada has seen since December of 2023, back when the benchmark price was $723,000. And as to what's going on to cause this price drop, well, it's all the available inventory compared to the lack of demand. If we look at the months of inventory measurement, the MOI, that came in at 4.7, the highest months of inventory Canada has seen since May of 2020. Which makes sense. We've seen an awful lot of inventory come to the market over the past few months with very few sales amid trade uncertainty. Eventually, prices are going to drop.
We saw the MLS HPI, after having been, as we said, flat as a pancake for about a year, had a significant and noteworthy drop off also between January and February.
And there it is again, the flat as a pancake line. Which
yeah, he does like that analogy, but I suppose it's apt. If we look at the benchmark price from peak to present, we can see basically flat pricing for nearly a year, and then now a drop-off. And Cathcart, quite aptly, strange times, quite aptly explained what's going on with sales.
Sales were down 9.8%, so I might as well say 10% month over month. That's big.
Yeah, that's big.
From January to February, but not surprising. Like we said, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and people are not going to be, taking on 25-year mortgages and borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars when they don't know if they're going to have a job next month.
So you heard it here first, friends. People without jobs cannot buy homes. This coming from the CREA.
I'll never forget where I was this day.
Yeah, the CREA is being uncharacteristically frank in its portrayal of the market. And then to give us a little bit more insight into the shifting rhetoric of industry leaders, we have Royal LePage CEO Phil, there is no mortgage renewal wave Soper, to tell us that it wasn't heavy snowfalls keeping people out of the market, as snow may keep people on the sidelines for a week or so, but if they really want to buy, they'll buy. Now, ordinarily, we wouldn't expect the CEO of a national real estate company to have to explain that Canadians still buy homes when it snows, as it really shouldn't have to be said, except as we covered on this channel last week after seeing it on CTV, apparently it did need to be said.
We also have had a ton of snow. Toronto was snowed in. We had showing cancellations.
Okay, well, who better to go to discuss whether better weather is on the way?
Which was funny, and we had a good laugh on this channel, but then, Phil, Canadians are going to flood back into the market on a small rate cut Soper, takes the time to rebut that nonsense.
There can be only one.
Yeah, are they like turning on each other? Royal LePage versus Remax. Phil Soper sees another realtor go on another network saying that February had one last day this year and thinks that's just a bridge too far.
That'll be enough of that.
Yeah, not on Phil Soper's watch. But that is the second time in as many months that Royal LePage said something useful, with last month a warning about the mortgage renewal wave. I mean, they denied it existed a few months prior on Bloomberg, but we are seeing big shifts from Royal LePage as of late.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Anyway, Soper then pointed to the elephant in the room, buyer confidence, noting that people's confidence to make major decisions has been shaken by the Trump White House. So we have these traditional optimists, CREA economist Sean Cathcart and Royal LePage CEO Phil Soper, both acknowledging, twice in as many months, the dismal state of the real estate market. With that said, not everything is changing, as Cathcart did go on a bit further, explaining how everything was going great until January 20th.
Initially, sales were doing pretty well. They were tracking with last year at average or maybe a little bit better than average at the national level. And then January 20th came along. The blanket 25% across the board tariffs were announced.
You do know we have the data right in front of us, right? The CREA provided it. It's not even that difficult. Here is the January sales data, and here is the 10-year average. 41,000 is indeed less than 43,000. So, by definition, from your own sales data, sales were less in January than they have been on average. And it wasn't just January. Look at the data from the past year. In only 1 month, November, were sales even close to being above the 10-year average. And that's using whatever convoluted method CREA has of calculating the 10-year average. If we try doing it manually on Excel, we get a 10-year average that is higher than that which is listed by the CREA. And yeah, sales were up in November, and only in November. But if you remember, the media, the industry, the lackeys were all pushing just about as hard as they could to kickstart the market ahead of spring. By now, as the spring is about to take off. Yet, looking at all of the averages, we can see there was absolutely zero evidence to suggest a slam dunk was upon us. Not like, say, if we look from June of 2020 well into 2021 when sales were well above the averages that we should have been seeing. That data predicted the 2021 market. 2024's data wasn't pointing to anything of the sort. Only those in the real estate industry and their puppets in the media were performing that function.
And you still owe us the money.
And look, it's impossible to prove a counterfactual. What would have happened? As any number of exogenous factors could have intervened into the process, which would have caused a different outcome. But the real estate industry, as we predicted, is going to continue to say that everything was going well, everything was going fine, the market was about to take off, and then Trump came into office. Yet, as we saw today, the data shows there wasn't any data to prove that assertion. There's nothing to support that idea that the market was just on the cusp of a takeoff. So, February's data, not that great. Sales way down, prices starting to fall off as well. And judging from preliminary data that I've seen, I'm not sure that March is going to be that much better. We will obviously continue to track how all of this plays out and its effects on the real estate market on this channel. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, thanks so much for watching.